Tennessee basketball. Caleb, you take the lead here.
Yeah, so Tennessee beats Georgia Southern 74-56 last night. Jimmy, Jonas Aidoo, as you know, is on a roll. He had 29 and 11 last night. It's his third straight double-figure game where he really emerged. I was critical of the first double-figure game because a week ago, he was taking too many shots, I thought, away from the basket, hit a couple of threes. All of his points against Illinois were underneath the basket, though, inside the circle. Most of his points last night were underneath the circle. Is Jonas Aidoo turning into Tennessee's best inside presence since Grant Williams?
Probably. The key thing there, and you mentioned the three double, he's got to be consistent, okay? So John Fulkerson, you never knew what you were going to get from him. He might give you 25 against Kentucky and then 2 against somebody else. So he is becoming that. I was with a group of people that were talking about Aidoo should never take a shot outside of 5 feet. I disagree with that. I like a big man who can shoot from the perimeter, like Hunter Dickinson for Kansas. Now, I don't want him taking 3-pointers if he's going to shoot 12% from 3-point range. But if he can take a 15-foot jump shot and make over 50%, I'm fine with that because that takes a Baycott away from the basket, or it takes a Zach Edney away from the basket. So I'm okay with that. I like a versatile big man that can shoot outside. And if he can continue to shoot at that level in a high percentage, I'm all for that. I did hear Rick Barnes talk about he's about as good as any big man in the country. Okay, I'm not ready to go that far. But also remember when Rick Barnes said Grant Williams could be the SEC Player of the Year, I scoffed at that, and Barnes ended up being right.
It's a great point. I'd forgotten about that. So in terms of this basketball team, what do you think he brings? What's his significance? Because I thought last year that Tennessee struggled when they dump it down in the post, and then they didn't have guys to they didn't have anybody to create a surefire 2, a Kevin McHale 2, as I like to call it. And then when they would kick it out, they didn't have guys that were hitting consistently. So what's the next step if he's the best post player since Grant Williams?
Well, to me, it gets back to the consistency part of it. And I do think he can score inside. And I do think he has a decent mid-range game. Here's the other part of his game. He needs to be a guy that averages 8 rebounds a game. He also needs to be a consistent double-digit scorer, but also he's a pretty good shot blocker. That's another factor with his game. So if he can improve or be consistent in those areas, he could end up being one of the best big men in the SEC.
Yeah, Jimmy, I had no issues with Jonas Aidoo's defense. As a matter of fact, I've told Dave I got no issues with this defense at all at Tennessee, and I said that in a 7-game series, if college basketball were the NBA, I would be a lot higher on Tennessee's chances to win a 7-game series with anybody because of their defense. My issue was always their offense. Can their offense withstand in March when you inevitably run into a lesser team that is shooting 78% from 3, because that always happens in March? Do you have the offense to withstand that? If Aidoo is able to consistently stretch the court by shooting from outside, and he's physical underneath the basket scoring, do you think, given the personnel and the 3-point shooters plus don't connect, that this year Tennessee has the offense to withstand a team like that in March?
I do. Yes, I do. And here's a part of it. So I'm watching this Tennessee team, and they've gotten better. I thought the Illinois game, all 5 starters played pretty well to really well. And then they had Meshack come off the bench and give him a lift. He played really well. But I was looking at these stats the other day. 3 of the guys that I would consider among the best, what should be the best 3-point shooters, Vescovy, Gainey, and Ziegler. Ziegler was shooting 25% from 3-point range, and Vescovy and Gainey were shooting less than 32%. I got to think they're going to be better, right? I don't know the reasons why they're struggling a little bit, but I don't know if Vescovy was distracted by the death of his grandmother. But I think those 3 will improve their 3-point shooting. And I think Dalton Connect's a heck of an offensive player. So if I'm right about those 3-point shooters, and I think I will be, they're not going to end up with those stats. I think this offense can be good enough to withstand the moments in the NCAA where they would have 6 or 8 minute droughts where they couldn't score.
Rick Barnes said Tennessee veterans extremely disappointing against Georgia Southern. Is this just something that you say, Jim, after you beat a lower level team because you want to motivate them a little bit, or do you think there's concern about the veteran leadership with this group?
I'm more along the lines of you got to say something after a game like that to keep them focused. But here's the thing, too. I expected a little bit of a letdown after you beat a really good ranked Illinois team, and then you're playing a winless team. I didn't expect Tennessee to come out and blow them out or play at a high level or shoot 60% because of those factors. So, yeah, I think Barnes, he's just trying to, still light a fire under his team.
Yeah, and Jimmy, the good news for Tennessee is you're right. They struggled from 3 against Illinois on Saturday and still managed 86 points. And they also, Illinois is an elite defensive team. And while I say you will inevitably run into a red hot shooting team in March, the chances of you running into a red hot shooting team that also plays defense like Illinois, okay, those are slim to none in March. You don't get both of those. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing and this has been proven over a number of years. If you want to get to the Elite Eight of the Final Four, your basketball team needs to be in the top 30 in offense and defense. If you're in the top 5 in defense, but you rank 120 in offense, you're not going to get there statistically. That's what's been shown. So Tennessee has to strike that balance of being a good offensive team and a good defensive team. They can't just be really good on defense. We have seen the last few years where, in my opinion, that has not worked.
No, agreed.
Yeah, defense does not win championships in college basketball. It's the biggest lie when people said that.
Except when you punt.
Punting does not win championships either, guys.
That's right. Tennessee across the board is the favorite to win the SEC regular season, which I know at the end of the year, people are not going to care if Tennessee gets bounced out in the first couple of rounds of the NCAA tournament. But across the board, every single gambling site has them as the favorite. Kentucky, Texas A&M right behind them. But as far as teams that truly are able to challenge Tennessee for the SEC regular season crown, as we're getting close to that, who are some programs you're keeping an eye on, Jim?
Arkansas is one of them. They've got a really good win. That's a team that I think's got a lot of talent. I like that team. I'm a little hesitant about Alabama. They had a lead against Purdue for a while before they ended up losing it. They showed some spark. Their rosters changed quite a bit from a year ago. Kentucky's got to be in there. That's one of them too. To me, Arkansas and Kentucky. Beyond that, I don't know. I might put Arkansas in there because they are a dangerous team. I think I'm leaving somebody out, but help me out, Caleb. Who am I leaving out?
Arkansas. I mean, Alabama is still Alabama with Nate Oates, but it's actually a very weak SEC this year relative to years past because Auburn's not the same program this year that they have been. So
yeah.
I think the biggest threat is Arkansas. Probably. And Arkansas's already lost a couple of games. I mean, they lost to Memphis earlier in the year. They lost a double overtime game also to, I want to say, I can't remember who it was, but they've already lost a couple of games. And so I'm not so sure that I think Tennessee has a clear path to winning the SEC this year. But again, it's Jimmy, I told Dave, Rick Barnes is at a point where, do you remember after LeBron and the Heat lost that finals to the Mavericks and the greatest choke job in professional sports history with LeBron? Remember the next year, nobody cared about LeBron in the regular season at that point. Everybody said, your whole legacy doesn't matter until June at this point. And I mean, to his credit, he delivered. I'm that way with Rick Barnes now. I don't care what he does between now and February and the end of February, even March. It's just completely overrated. So I think they are going to win the SEC, and I just don't think it matters. By the way, I want to address Ragged Top Tom saying, ask Tony Bennett about Virginia not winning titles with defense. That 2019 Virginia team was elite offensively. Anybody who watched that team had an elite offense.
I wonder if Caleb's tune might change a little bit, Jimmy, if they did the in-season tournament like they did in the NBA. Did you see any of that stupidity before I ask you about Kentucky?
No, I didn't. Didn't really.
So stupid.
It just did not attract my attention, other than the fact that they were playing on the ugliest courts I've ever seen.
And they celebrated with goggles and champagne.
Yes. Who was coaching them? Butch Jones.
They hung a banner. That is the most Butch Jones move ever.
Isn't it?
To hang a banner.
We're the champions of the Gator Bowl. Hang a banner. Yeah, right.
I can see Butch Jones saying champions of November because they beat Vanderbilt and maybe Kentucky.
Well, he did say the most forgotten part about the Champions of Life comment was right before then. He did say there's still a bowl game championship to win, guys, after they didn't win the SEC.
Yeah, I got another hoops question for Jimmy, but I want to remind you, portions of the program brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals, a Tennessee tradition? Go to rickterryjewelry.com. rickterryjewelry.com. If John Calipari, who suddenly is getting a little bit up there in age, if he only wins one championship, will we look back at his career as disappointing?
His career.
Yes, considering the talent.
Gosh. I'm going to say no, because he did have success at UMass. He got them to Final Four, even though they had to take the banner down. Memphis, Kentucky. Here's the way I would define his career. I would say no, it's not a disappointing career. I would say what he's done at Kentucky is disappointing. Only one championship. So if I can divide it into two segments, I'd say disappointing at Kentucky, but career, no, because he did win at 3 different schools.
Did you know that, and I know this personally because my son goes to UMass, did you know there's a Marcus Camby section where you can buy Marcus Camby apparel?
I did not know that.
Would you like me to pick you
learn
some
on this show? Would
you like me to pick you up anything next time I'm up there?
I'm still looking for Christmas presents. So yeah. Can you get it to me before the 25th?
You know, a guy that went to UMass that might be a good idea to promote. He was okay. It was called Dr. J.
Oh yeah.
That might be the guy you want to promote instead of Marcus.
Dominated
Camby.
a watered down ABA. Was not the same player when the leagues merged. Sorry.
He's pretty good when the leagues merged. Yeah, he was, Caleb.
Wasn't Moses Malone the driving force of that Sixers team that won it?
So was Irving. Both of them were.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy. Fantastic stuff as always. We greatly appreciate it, and a really good breakdown looking back over the season with some numbers in there that'll kind of blow you away. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Caleb. Y'all enjoy Hooker Hump Wednesday.
Yes, Hooker Hump Wednesday with Hyams. That needs some workshopping. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, it's going to be tough to sell. That's going to be tough to pitch to an advertiser. It's Hump Day with Hooker and Hyams.
I wanted to mention before. I want to keep joking about this, but I do want to mention the Calipari thing real quick. I think Calipari, I 180'd on him, and it is a disappointment because of the 2014-2015 year, Dave. When he had the number one recruiting class in 2013, as he always does, they all came back. Every one of them came back, and he got another number one recruiting class, and they went undefeated all the way to the Final Four and lost to Wisconsin in that Final Four. That's the most disappointing loss a college sports team has ever suffered, and they never should have lost that game.
You know, it really comes down to this. If Derrick Rose, and you know that team well, hits those free throws, then you're talking about two championships and at different schools. That elevates your career to a whole nother level, in my opinion. I'm mixed on John Calipari. There are times I thought he should have done a lot more in college. Just like that, I'm mixed on John Calipari. I think he should have done a lot more at Kentucky with the players he has, but he still brought those players in. Sorry, go ahead.
But he also coached away that title game with Derrick Rose. I mean, in case you forgot, I don't know why you don't foul Mario Chalmers when Kansas needs a 3 to tie.
No, I don't think he's a great on-court coach. Don't get me wrong. But if Derrick Rose hits those free throws, I think that he's remembered in a far different way, because then he's built up 3 programs. He's won a championship at 2. There's a big difference to me in winning one championship and your second one. And there would have been a big difference in the way I think Philip Fulmer's remembered if he did even played in that Rose Bowl in 2001 and won an SEC championship against LSU. Don't you think there's a big difference between maybe not stumbling on one? If Fred sees this, he'll kill me. But there's a big difference between winning 1 and 2, in my opinion. Wrong?
Oh, I totally agree. You don't fire coaches who win 2 titles. Coaches who win one title can still get fired if the program gets stale or anything like that. I've never heard of a 2-title coach get fired ever.
Here's a great example. 2019 LSU, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Ed Orgeron stumbled upon that. He hired the right guys. He was smart enough to let them run it, both the coordinators, and he had an uber talented team. That to me,
and he
makes
motivated
it,
them well. To his credit, Ed Orgeron's a great motivator. So
absolutely, absolutely, like and subscribe. But Ed Orgeron winning 2, kids, that ain't never going to happen, ever, ever, ever. I can promise you that.
Ever.